Hi, and welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast. My name is Andy Lehman from freedomskillsacademy.com, and I'm with my good friend, John Banks. How are you doing?
Yes, hello. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very well.
Good. I just forgot to mention this is episode 48, isn't it? 48.
Yeah, episode 48.
Freedom Hustles
Getting closer.
podcast.
Getting closer.
Getting closer to that 50 mark.
We should get some party poppers or something for that one, and I don't know, do something.
Well, we could always pop round to number 10 Downing Street. You can have parties there legally, can't you?
Exactly.
So, right?
Yeah, Downing Street Road. Yeah.
I've spent the day looking through all the responses of everything. It's
ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. If anybody's listening, how you can sign an email off.
How you can end an email which says "bring your own booze" and then not think it's a party is a bit beyond me. Anyway.
The bit that got me, the best bit I thought, was when he was trying to say that he wanted to thank everybody and he couldn't think of a way to do it after spending like a year and a half telling everybody to use Zoom technology, email, and work remotely because we've got all this advanced technology, but our Prime Minister could not thank people without having to do it personally with wine and cheese.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a different story. So episode 48, what are we going to talk about today, John?
So tonight's episode is all about repurposing stuff that you've already used. So you might have used something elsewhere on one particular project or one particular medium, if you like, and then you want to use it you can remix it, reuse it, and repurpose it. So there's loads of examples of this, and Brilliant. Hopefully we're going to share some tonight. So that anyone that makes content of any form, whether it be blogs, YouTube, podcasts, audio, anything pretty much. We're going to share some ways in which you can maybe reach some people that you wouldn't normally reach, if you like.
Yeah, that's great. Also, just to point out as well, with this, we are possibly the greatest time in human history to be able to do this fairly quickly from home. We've never had so many tools to do this because, in the old days, basically, if you want to do a video, an audio, or a book, you basically had to print it off, send it off, and vice versa. Audio was on a disc and video was on a DVD, and you send it to the post. Nowadays, the opportunity is, like you say, about repurposing. You can record a video today, have it on YouTube, showing around the world, and then, as we say, and we talk about repurposing, is that YouTube video then can soon become a podcast. You just strip the audio out, upload that to Anchor FM. And that's kind of funny because just before we had this conversation, before we started doing this podcast, I've just edited a video myself, one I recorded the other day, just like we're doing now, recording into the camera. And then I've just edited it and I've uploaded it now to a piece of software where within like 10 seconds, it will strip the audio completely out. And that's going into a library ready to be put onto Anchor FM, which will be it's a podcast. So basically what took me, which was one video, is now going to be possibly 2 traffic sources just from that one video. Yeah. And that's without doing any major changes altogether, at all.
That's great. Yeah. And some other ways. So that's sort of video, which covers it really well. I mean, video is an obvious one. You can strip the audio out. And then you can upload that as a separate thing. So for people that like podcasts, people that like audio, or Audible, isn't it? Is the other place for like audio books and that. Yeah. So people that like that sort of thing, I'm a massive fan of that. I know you are as well. So that's great. I mean, that's a real quick win straight away that we've just sort of given away there. Another one I like, I say it's new. It's not really new, but it's kind of in the online space, and that is short form video. So really, really short, sort of 15 seconds up to maybe a minute. Obviously, TikTok has kind of sort of started this craze off. They're the sort of the quick tips, or funny, or could just be sharing like a simple testimonial, or like a top 5 tips. It doesn't have to be detailed. So TikTok kind of started it all off, and then since then, obviously the others have kind of seen this and they've gone, "Wow, hang on a minute, there's clearly something here," because TikTok's growth was unbelievable in its first year or two of trading. It went absolutely mental. They had millions and millions of people sign up to the platform. So then naturally the other guys, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, they all kind of looked at this and thought, hang on a minute, we missing the boat here a bit. So, for example, Instagram, which was predominantly images, that was the whole point of the platform. It was image sharing, has now gone massively into video as well. And that's no surprise. And they've even now created their own kind of version of TikTok, which is called Instagram Reels. So anyone with an Instagram account now, you've now got Instagram Reels. And that's exactly the same. It's basically sharing this sort of short form video. So that's one thing. So you could actually, if you had a TikTok account, when you make that TikTok video, you can quite easily, once that video is made, you can quite easily then re-upload it to your Instagram Reels. So again, one video, two platforms. And you've now got YouTube Shorts, which is the same thing, although I'm not sure about the editing functionality of YouTube Shorts, but it's exactly the same thing. The only thing being you can just upload that via your normal YouTube channel. So if you've got a YouTube channel, you just upload these 15-second videos up to a minute long or whatever. And all you have to do is in the description, you just have to put hashtag shorts. And then that will tell YouTube that it wants it to go in the sort of shorts feed, if you like, which is the algorithm and the feed to show it on people's phones rather than maybe on their desktops. So that's that. And then there's another one, which I wanted to just quickly talk about. I've not really explored it too much, although I have had a little go. And that is that's one called Pinterest. So the Pinterest is called Stories. So Pinterest Stories. And again, it's the same thing. Although with Pinterest Stories, you can do slides. So you can do like 10 slides. And in the slides, you can put these short form video. So that's basically one, you imagine you make your TikTok video, you do your 10 minutes or whatever it is. You make your video in 10 minutes, let's say, time you've edited it and added your bits and bobs. And then within that, video that you've just created, you've got the potential to share it on 4 platforms. That are designed for that type of video.
Yeah. You're also missing out. Basically, you can still share it on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, Twitter did try and create a similar thing to short stories.
Yeah.
They pulled it. They didn't do it for long, but they did have a go. But you can share videos on Twitter as well. So you've got Twitter and Facebook, which basically you don't want to spread yourself too thin, but basically, like you said, if you create a YouTube video, or a TikTok video, if you've got it on your phone and it's there available, if it's only going to take an extra couple of minutes to upload it to Twitter and Facebook, that's a whole range of platforms you covered. And I was also just thinking as well, we're talking about repurposing and trying to create the most out of what you're doing. I was only just thinking, when I record a video, such like I'm doing now, I sometimes get talking fast and I get jabbering. But if you pen up a sort of a script or an idea for a video, which is going to go on YouTube, let's say it's a longer version or like a podcast, you could script it to a point where you can see where you have like little breaks. So you could stop. You could stop and sort of, I could be talking like something. I could just stop, ponder for a minute, and then talk again. You've got probably half a dozen little things there that you can edit out to snippet perfectly for TikTok, Instagram, whatever. So you're repurposing that same one video 5 or 6 times, again, across 5-10 different platforms. That's quite powerful.
So that's sort of that's kind of one of the. I was listening actually to a video today which was talking about a similar thing, which is basically about using things like if you did like a top 10 list, for example, like a blog post or in a YouTube video, whatever. That could effectively be broken down into 10 mini little TikTok videos or 10 mini little Instagram reels, which, we've done that sort of thing before. And I remember when we used to write a blog years ago, and I used to quite like doing infographics of the blog post. So like, for example, I don't know, you might write a blog which will say something like 10 top 10 tips on how to build a Facebook page or something like that. And then I would just basically compile that same blog post, but compile it into like an infographic and share it on Pinterest. So it's the same message, if you like, but just two different platforms which want two different things, because some people prefer to go and sit down and consume the written word, whereas other people will prefer like an image or a graphic or, you know, a video or audio or, you know, whatever we've talked about recently. And that's exactly it. You know, not everyone's the same, and not everyone consumes content the same way.
No, they learn differently, don't they?
And they learn differently. Yeah, exactly. So that's a great tip, actually. Yeah.
The thing about the the infographics I used to do, they were often down into sort of, it's kind of like the equivalent of a bite-size bullet point chunk. So the information was there without lots of explanation and fluff and filler. And I was just thinking, I was talking to a guy the other day who was telling me that when it comes to videos on YouTube, unless he truly, truly wants to watch something or learn something, if it's over 15 minutes, he tends to get bored or he doesn't watch. So where you were saying like your top 10 tips, this will make you laugh because we were talking about this. If you were to do like a top 10 video and it took about 20 minutes to get through the top 10, people will probably not watch it all. But if you broke that top 10 down into like a couple of minutes short videos, stick them on TikTok, chances are the same people who won't watch a 20-minute video will probably watch all 10 videos shorts
anyway,
and go through them all. Because people do that. They're, I can't watch long videos. And you'll say, well, how long was you on TikTok for? Oh, I lost about 4 hours going through like 50 short videos.
That's a good point, actually. So what I do with my shorts on my YouTube channel is I actually put them into one playlist. So every time I do a short, I'll add it to the shorts playlist. Because then if anyone decides that they want to just watch one thing after another, then it's there. And also you can share a whole playlist out. So yeah, that's a good little tip, actually. One of the ones I remember, one of the ones I remember from a really, really good sort of successful story, if you like, of repurposed content was, well, I say it's repurposed. Yeah, it is repurposed because, okay, so what Russell Brunson, who owner of certain funnel software, I used to listen to one of his podcasts, and it was called Marketing in My Car. Now, all it was, every day, this is brilliant, every day he used to record himself driving to work. So driving in the commute into the office, right, would take him about 5 to 10 minutes. And on that journey, he'd literally start his phone or whatever he was using, driving to work, and he would just talk about a topic, you know, a particular marketing topic, just like we do sometimes on the pod, you know, completely off the cuff. Just let his mind go and just chat about something. And so he actually recorded, I can't remember the exact number, but let's say in the region of 50 of these, maybe even more than that. So he recorded a load of these, and these episodes, these little short episodes. And then from that, as one of his upsells on one of his products, he packaged it all together and put it on a hard drive on a little mini USB stick, and then sold it for like 20 quid or something. So he'd done it just as a 5 minutes on the way to work every day. Once he'd done it for like a couple of months, he packaged it all together, put it all on a USB stick, which he obviously bought in bulk for like $5 or something. And then he was able to sell that as an upsell for $20 or $30. I can't remember how much. It probably might have even been more than that. So he'd sell it as like this, you know, the entire marketing Bible that you can listen to on the go anywhere you want. Do you know what I mean? This, you know, sold it really well. And I thought, what an amazing idea. So, you know, although it's the same thing, I guess, it's audio, but it's packaged together differently. It became a premium product eventually.
It's still repurposed. I mean, it's still being used in a different way, but the chances are, and it wouldn't surprise me if those audios became, ebooks, because I mean Jim Edwards, who's a well-known copywriter who works with Russell Brunson, he has a podcast with another fella, and I remember signing up for what was a free ebook. I thought, to be fair, I thought it was going to be better than what it was. I suppose there's probably a lot of content in it, but it was just a PDF made up of the transcripts of several podcasts. So the problem I have with transcripts of a podcast is that they take it literally from word to word, and so sometimes sentences are broken up, and sometimes not as easy to follow.
Can't quite fit.
As easy to follow as when you're listening. But again, it's doable. That's what they've done. They took their podcast, they paid somebody probably on Rev.com or Fiverr.com or someone in the team to just basically transcribe. I mean, the software that'll do it now, but they transcribe that software, the audio into a PDF. And so that is something else that you can do. And it can be done both ways. So like you can write an article, there's software that will read it out into an audible sound, into an audio voice, or you read it yourself or pay somebody. Then you've got yourself a video, a blog post, and a podcast, or you start the other way around. You've got your podcast, video, and then it becomes an article or an ebook. So it's just one of those magical things. Like I say, today we can do all of that quite easily. Even if you haven't got the time yourself to do it, you can soon go over to Fiverr.com and pay somebody to split a video into little chunks. I mean, not just that, there's other ways of repurposing. I've seen it's a combination of photos. Is it like it could even be a photo with the quote? It could even just be an audio snippet. These are going around on Facebook. Some people have taken like we've had quotes in the past. You've probably seen a quote with Einstein. They're just taking like a little snippet from a podcast, turn it into a little video with a little bit of image in the background, popping that on Facebook with the guy's name. So what was spoken in a podcast then becomes like a little audio quote or an image.
Yeah,
These are
absolutely.
That is repurposing content. Someone has got a team member and they've just said, and I know for well, I think Russell Brunson does this because he's mentioned before he's got a team. He just basically, he'll record the video, then he'll pass it on to somebody else and he'll say, right, make that into whatever, make that into that. There'll be somebody somewhere who'll be said, split that into loads of
little things. Yeah.
Stick them together as a little mini image, whatever. And it gets shared all across the social medias. Yeah. All just for one piece of content.
I done it on one of ours once. Do you remember we had the podcast where, so that's another good idea. So like outtakes and like bloopers and stuff like that. So I had do you remember that time we were doing it and the kids walked in and they they were
the one where we were dancing
in the background, didn't realise we were recording, and I was like, what are you doing? And then we just both cracking up. So that obviously got filmed. I can't remember if I chopped it out. I must have chopped it out of the
I think you chopped it out of the main
version.
podcast.
But obviously we still had the copy of it. So obviously kept that little clip and then just shared that as a little sort of funny sort of story. But yeah, no, it's great. So another thing I want to just quickly talk about is so like tools. We've talked about tools of the trades before. There's hundreds of different things you can use. But one of the graphic tools I use is Canva. So Canva.com. You can get free accounts with them. Or obviously, if you want the real sort of nitty gritty, then there is a premium. But one of their really, really amazing features is if you make an image, let's say you make an Instagram post or something, which will, most likely be just like a square, like 1080 or something like that. So you make your Instagram post or whatever it is you're going to do. Let's say you've done a quote or whatever, they've got like a magic resize button, which will basically resize it to kind of any format you want. So, if you want to then reformat that to like Instagram stories or, Pinterest stories or Instagram reels, or I don't know, maybe you want to convert it down to like, be like a banner or something like that for your blog. You can literally just push a button and it will convert it all for you. So, yeah.
Do you know, I didn't know that. I use Canva. I didn't even know that button.
I don't know if it's on. Yeah, no, I don't know if it's on. It depends on whether you've got.
Mine's free version.
Free or premium. But I know it's. Yeah, there is on there. It's called the Magic Resizer. But then it obviously won't do it perfectly. But then it makes it really easy for you to literally just drag, and within 30 seconds you'll have a ready to go image on that. So like you said at the top of the show, there isn't really any excuses really. There's so much. It's so much easier, than what it was.
I mean, it's like we're using Zoom now. When you finish recording a Zoom podcast, it gives you the audio as well, doesn't it? It gives you the audio. So yes, you haven't got an intro piece of music on it. We could probably get more sophisticated and play around with it. We don't bother. You add it later on using a piece of editing software. When I record my videos, I use Screencast-O-Matic, which there's a free version, but there's also a quite ridiculously cheap version, which gives me an editing suite, and we just add the audio to that. And once the finished video is finished, and I've uploaded it to YouTube, I then just basically upload the MP4 back into Screencast, and then just split the audio, and I've got the whole thing with the music at the big front and back, and it's just split. Done. Again, that's just done. It takes seconds to do that.
Yeah, all I do, so it goes in Wondershare. So this will get downloaded after this. It goes in Wondershare. I'll put a intro, an outro, and then an image in the middle, an image at the beginning. Sorry, a couple of little subscribe buttons and that. But like you say, there's all I'm doing is cloning one that we've already done. So it's really easy. It's literally just a case of swapping the video out. Really, the rest of it almost stays the same. And then as soon as I've done that, all I'll do is take the beginning image out, because that's just for YouTube only, which is, one click, remove that. And then I'll just download the thing as an audio, and it just downloads it as MP3. So this one podcast becomes shared across, well, it actually goes out across, I don't know, 10 probably platforms, doesn't it? Because it goes on YouTube, and then it goes like Anchor, Spotify. We don't do any of that, by the way. We list it on Anchor, and that's it. And then Anchor's sort of platform, they've got it embedded in theirs, where as soon as you upload it to that, they'll share it across like Spotify, iTunes, and all the other, wherever you get your podcasts from, basically. Google Podcasts and all that. So it's brilliant. I mean, like you say, that's one piece of content that gets shared across 10 different things. It's amazing.
Going back into Anchor FM, people, if anybody hasn't got Anchor FM, it's actually, there is a desktop version, but it's basically a mobile app. And with it, there's a microphone. You've got a bit of a bank of royalty-free music that you can use. But basically, if you've written an article, because as we said, people learn differently. They prefer different mediums. And also, not just that the content creator prefers something different. I'm great at writing. I'm not so bad at talking in front of the camera. I'm not so brilliant at particularly editing. I don't have the sort of the skills and the ability that you have for that kind of thing. But with the writing, I could quite easily, if I wished, take my phone, take Anchor, just read what I've written into the microphone, sit with a mug of tea, sit in a chair, read that, upload it to Anchor with a bit of a description, and then they'll, like you said, they'll distribute it across several other platforms. And that's, again, done with, you finish your writing, you have a couple of minutes, get yourself a cup of tea, read that. Let's say it takes 15 minutes. If you're happy with it, it's done. And it's across so many different platforms. And like I was saying earlier at the top of at the start of the podcast, 20 years ago, if you were trying to get an audio into people's hands, you'd have to stick it on a disc and possibly send it to them. Now with this, you record it once, pop it into Anchor, and they distribute it to these different platforms, which can be heard and listened to by hundreds, possibly even thousands of people. That's like fishing in a lake with like half a dozen fishing rods. You multiplied your chance of catching more and more people, and it's all done from the same piece of content at home using tools that we all have.
So the other one is it's brilliant. So the other one, which is probably on our radar, isn't it? I know we've definitely got some books and some material that eventually we do want to list on Audible, which is the Amazon's sort of audio book platform, isn't it? We have kind of looked into it. It's not something that we would read ourselves. You almost certainly have to hire someone to do it. But anyway, the point I was making was, again, like you said, years ago, you wrote a book. You had to go through the whole aggro of maybe even not getting it published, right? So you had to find yourself a publisher. You've put your blood, sweat, and tears into this, and you've finally done it. You've finished your book. And if you were fortunate enough to get a publisher, then great, you signed a book deal. Whereas now, anyone can write a book. anyone can publish that book on Amazon, KDP. They got that book published. That book can be transformed into an Audible book, almost at the drop of a hat as well, which is Amazon's same platform. So then you've automatically got your book in a physical format. You've got your book in an ebook format. You've got your book in an Audible format across multiple different countries. You can get it translated into multiple different languages. So that one piece of content effectively could be on almost dozens of platforms. Do you know what I mean?
And then this is something else which is all very relevant to that, because I've written, like I said the other week in the other podcast, I talked about I've done around 200,000 words of emails.
Yeah,
they are going to be turned into a book. But also, when you have a book written, if you write emails and they're all sort of congruent, those emails then can become a book. You might need to do a bit of editing, but each email could actually become a chapter if they need to. But once you've got your book, right, each chapter then, if you, like say you've written the book and you're not using those emails, those chapters can become emails, or your emails can become part of a book. But those chapters then can also become podcasts, and they can also become video talks.
Yep, absolutely.
So again, there's always time. Like I said, we're in the greatest period of human history to be able to create content and get it spread out to tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people within a couple of days. There is work involved, but there's nothing compared to what there used to be. But like I say, you write a book, you write an email, you create the emails into a book. Each email becomes a chapter becomes a podcast becomes a video. Basically, you sit down and write something. You've got multiple opportunities there creating content, which, as you said, it goes out, it's distributed to X amount of podcast platforms, social media platforms, Pinterest, YouTube. It's just, it's just incredible. And that I think is where a lot of the people are successful. Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, I'm not a huge fan of the hustle. But one thing that most people seem to forget, or he failed to mention for quite a few years, was that part of his hustle was the fact that he had a big team of people behind him, basically chopping up and repurposing majority of the content that he said. If he did an interview.
If you get one piece of content, he shares it everywhere. You see it on all the platforms, every single one of them.
Yeah. Because you've got to use it. It's mass marketing. It's mass. It's that sort of. Do you want to get one piece of perfect content in front of 1,000 people, or do you want to get 10 pieces of content in front of 1,000 people each, which is multiple, basically 10,000 people? And when you're repurposing your content, you might love blogging, you might love writing your article, you might love sticking on your website and leave it. You get a few people coming to your website, they read it, that's fine. But that one piece of content, as we've said, if you get it across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all these other places on podcasts, that one piece of content suddenly is being put in the hands of potentially tens of thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands of people. Again, like I say, it depends on how good it is, what you're talking about, whether people are looking for it. But whereas an article on a website is probably likely to be seen by maybe say 100 people a month, on just a basic website, putting it on all these other platforms, you're possibly turning 100 people into 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Which means you're getting a bigger pool of opportunity.
And that's an interesting point. And to go a little bit further on that, we should also point out that all platforms' algorithms are completely different. Well, not completely different, but they all do subtly work differently, don't they? So you got Instagram's feed, for example, will be different to your recommendations on YouTube. It'll be vastly different. The way they deliver that, what they think you want to see will be vastly different. And I know TikTok's one, for example, you got by far the best chance of a video taking off with 0 followers on TikTok at the moment, because all they're doing is they take a video, any video that you've made. They don't care about your amount of followers you've got. They show that video to a small group of people immediately, right? And if in that group of people it's liked and well received, it then gets shown to a larger pool of people. And exactly the same. If that pool of people like and share it, it then gets shown to another one. So it's not like, YouTube, where you kind of need some subscribers or you're trying to rank for SEO, or TikTok's completely nothing like that. So if you have one piece of content that goes out on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, they're all going to behave completely differently. You know what I mean? One of them can hang around for months and still get you leads. The other one's going to be instant and only instant, like the first 3 hours matters. And the other ones, it's all going to be different. So you might as well share it about. And I'm guilty of this. I don't do it enough. Like, I think we should. Definitely, we don't do it enough. But I'm starting to do more of it now. It's becoming kind of more easier, and they're kind of all trying to compete with each other. So another point I wanted to quickly make, which was we're talking about blog posts. I mean, it's sort of like one of that's the original, isn't it? Really, that's the original content on internet web 1.0, as we called it back then. It was all written text-based content. So I remember a book called The 4-Hour Work Week, right? I'm sure many people would be familiar with that. Now, that book was not entirely made up of blog posts, but a lot of that stuff was blog posts, things that had already been written, on his journal and in his blog and everything like that. So he just kind of then created it into a book. Do you know what I mean? So he probably didn't have the idea of the book first. The book would have almost come second to what, you know what I mean? He had started with his blog and stuff like this. And then a lot of it kind of went into the blog, and then from the blog, it then went transcribed into the audio book, and so on and so forth. So,
I know a few people have done that. They've done it with emails, turned them into books and stuff like that. It's a great way of repurposing your content, because once it's created, you've got it and you can use it and make money from it. You might as well. We know we've talked about some great ideas here, and we know that it's time. There is a time element to creating all this stuff. But there's something I was thinking about today, something I was writing about, which I think really needs to be spoken, or it needs to be said. And that is, several years ago, if you had a product to sell and you wanted to sell it, and you wanted to sell that to 1,000 copies, if you had to talk to people face to face to try and sell it, it would take time. So let's say that I wrote an email and it took me an hour to write. The thing about writing email, creating video, creating podcasts is that they amplify and multiply your efforts. So, for example, if I spent an hour writing an email, which I then sent to an email list, and 2,000 people read that email, and it took them 15 minutes to read that email, it would basically take 30. That would amplify my hour to the equivalent of 500 hours of work. So if I was to stand and talk to 2,000 people individually for 15 minutes, I would have to spend 500 hours trying to get that message across to each person. If I was to do that every day for 8 hours straight, that's 62.5 days worth of work. And so with an email, like I say, you send that to a list of 2,000 people, that 1 hour becomes 500 hours worth of work. So if you were to turn that email into a book, if you were going to turn that email into podcasts, if you were going to turn that email into sort of video, and you spread that across all those platforms, and let's say that just one of your podcasts, one of your videos, one of your articles, this one piece of content was seen by, let's say over several years, 10,000 people, that is a huge amount of time that you've actually saved yourself from a marketing point of view. And you've got to remember as well, the great thing I like about these things is, I don't know so much about TikTok and other places. Facebook, things used to get lost, but with YouTube, the more times a video is on there, the more it gets watched. It becomes found again. It's there for years to come. So that content which you've multiplied across several platforms can still be found 5 years, even possibly 10 years later by people. And it's still there doing the work for you, which, like I say, if you were to do it face to face, there's no chance. No chance.
Oh, it's a good point to end on, actually. Yeah, we've talked about that quite a few times before, haven't we? Yeah, the YouTube sandbox stuff sits in there for months. You can have a video and it does nothing for 6 months, and then all of a sudden it takes off and gets thousands of views. that's not uncommon at all. That in fact, that happened to one of mine actually fairly recently. I think I was talking about it the other day when I was making a video about it. But yeah, you can have stuff that sits in the sort of, publish a video on YouTube. It does nothing for months on end, and then all of a sudden, boom, it takes off. Yeah, so that's a great way of sort of, what you were saying then. You could make content. Perhaps that was a blog post at one stage, or perhaps that was, I don't know, something else that like an infographic or something like that. You just decided, hang on a minute, these 10 points that I've written down as this blog post, I'm going to make a video about it. And all you're going to do is basically just talk about those 10 points on camera. Because again, people like to consume things differently. And, so then you've got your blog post, which is already there. After that, you've made a video talking about it. You can then embed that video into your blog post again, which freshens it up a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you've got two things. And even if the video does nothing for the first 3 or 4 months, at one stage it could get seen, and then call to action is the same. I don't know, at the end of the blog post, you've got, I don't know, perhaps sign up for this offer, or, an affiliate link for a product. You can do exactly the same in the YouTube video. And then before you know it, like you say, one original piece of content is now 2 across 2 different mediums, getting different leads from different platforms. Brilliant.
And the thing as well, like I say, you've got to remember, because it's something I kind of think we must have known it, but we never really sort of thought about it. But it actually amplifies and magnifies your efforts, because when you have a conversation with someone, once you've finished, it's finished. That's it. You have to have a conversation with another person. They may go away. Yes, they might remember it, and they go, "Oh, what was that conversation? What was that?" But with a video, with a blog post, with a podcast, they're there waiting to be picked up. They're waiting to start another conversation with another person without you having to actually be present. You're not doing it actively. So while you've got one podcast out there being listened to by, say, 10 people, you're recording the second one. You're not actually having to have 10 different conversations. You're making another one, which is going to be heard again. And like I say, at the moment, we have God knows what it's going to be like in another 5-10 years' time, but the tools that we have are just incredible, really, for what we're doing. Like, I mean, it's the opportunity of being able to take one piece of content and make money from it on so many different platforms in so many different ways is just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, you think about what you can do with your mobile phone. Like you said, TikTok and Instagram are mainly mobile phone based, really, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And that's in your hand. I mean, we've talked on several occasions, the content, because everybody loves content. Everybody loves getting to know a person. Everybody loves free content. That's how you get, you build an email list. You give away some free content. With Instagram, it's the same principle. You're probably not necessarily giving your email in exchange, but you're following. Yeah, people like Miguel Barkley, he's just walking around town, and her one big brother, I can't remember her name now, my missus follows all the time. They just whip out the phone, and it's like, and they just record themselves talking, and they give this thing. And I suppose if you're doing it through Instagram, I don't know if it's stored to your phone, I can't remember, but if you record the video on your phone, then you've got it on your phone, which you can just broadcast to every social media platform you're on.
TikTok's pretty good because you can just download it straight away after you've done it. So you can upload it to TikTok and then download it from that platform directly back to your phone again. And there you go.
So there you go. You're sat in a park with a coffee in your hand. You've recorded your TikTok video. You broadcast it onto TikTok. So it's potentially now going to be seen by possibly millions of people. But then you download it to your phone, pop it on every other social media, and you still haven't finished your coffee.
Done. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
It's bad. It's just mad. It's balmy.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty good, really. We've sort of covered quite a lot there. So, yeah, loads of takeaways in that. Definitely. If you've got any others to add, then definitely drop us a comment in below, or get in touch. But I think there was sort of more than enough there. It's actually got me thinking, actually, again, of loads of the sort of stuff that we used to do that we should probably consider doing more of. But yeah,
it's given me an idea for possibly next week's podcast, and something which we'll probably talk about after we've been talking to you fine folk, because as I mentioned before, about if you're not careful, you can spread yourself too thin. But as we said, we are in the greatest period of human history to be able to gig specific jobs. You know what I mean? It's like,
definitely.
We talk about transcribing blog posts and stuff like that.
We're all getting mixed up now. Blogcast.
Yeah. It's, but we don't have to do all the work ourselves either.
No, exactly not. Yeah, exactly not. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to be able to afford, I don't know, if you've got VAs or if you're in a small team, then yeah, definitely you should, consider outsourcing this. Or, get the kids involved if you're a parent or something. They know how to use all this stuff, don't they, these days? Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's wrap up then. So that was episode 48. And yeah, okay. My name has been John Banks over at sidingcommand.com. I've been with Andy Lehman from the Freedom Skills Academy. I'd just like to say thanks very much for listening. And we will see you on the next one.
Okay, thanks very much and goodbye.